Welcome everyone to the Disney Spirits podcast, episode 5, the Disney podcast for June. We're already in June. Jeez,
unbelievable.
I
feel like this is a lost year.
Yeah, seriously. The last year, all in 3 months.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gary, what's going on tonight?
I'm thinking of my top 5 list tonight.
I'm thinking of mine too. I have a feeling that tonight you and I might agree on quite a few picks.
Yeah, I think you're right. We are doing our top 5 list tonight is top 5 Orlando area coasters. We're breaking out of the strict Disney speak. And we're moving outside because, hey, who knew there's stuff in Orlando area aside from Disney? Who knew?
I didn't think there was anything outside the gates, but there is apparently stuff outside the gates. Although there are Disney coasters on my list, just to spoil things a bit. Yeah. Full disclosure, spoil things a bit. So I'm sure you have Disney coasters on your list as well.
There might be some. I don't know. So I'm Gary. That's Joe.
Good evening, everyone. Or morning, depending on when you're listening to it, or afternoon.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
So why we're here, we love theme parks. We also love cocktails. And isn't life better when those two go hand in hand? That's the way we feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely, my friend. And I am looking forward to the day when those two things will go together yet again.
Yeah, good. That's good philosophical point. Yeah,
me too. For me, actually, it might be this coming weekend because I'm supposed to go to Disney's not open yet, but I'm supposed to go to Universal and SeaWorld. Well, we'll get to that in our news, I guess. Yeah.
It's scary. Scary for me. Takes me a little bit.
I know. Gary's a bit frightened about this.
Yeah. I'm a germaphobe anyway, so this makes things 1,000 times worse. I think we've discussed that in previous podcasts.
Gary's already looking up flowers from my wife and I's funeral. So.
All I gotta do is click the send button. That's it. All right, so on to the podcast. We got another giveaway.
We do.
We do another giveaway. Another hat. Is it
another hat? Here's the
Sweet.
Hat. This is our hat that we're giving away, the same one as last week, or last podcast, not last week, but a sweet hat, WDW crew. And
what do you got to do?
Gary, what do you have to do to win it?
You got to listen, like, share, subscribe, whatever you do, but do it on iTunes or YouTube, and we'll pick your name, and we'll if you win, leave a comment.
Leave a comment, please. Yep.
We'll pick your name.
Like us.
If you win, you get a cool hat.
Come on. What's better than that? Just make a comment. You might win a cool hat.
But be nice.
A nice comment, of course.
We hate to send a hat to someone who does not like the podcast.
And don't say these guys are drunk because that's obvious. All right.
All right. So, always you can email us at thedisneyspirits at gmail.com. Give us ideas for drinks. Give us ideas for podcasts. Tell us how much you like us. Be nice.
Yeah. Don't tell us how much you don't like us. I hear that from my wife enough.
Yeah. I hear that from your wife too.
I know. Amazing how that works.
Yeah, so share our podcast with your friends, share our videos, share our channel, our YouTube channel, share it on iTunes, rate. Make sure you check out our drinks. Go all through the channel. Have tons of fun. Give us suggestions. I don't know. Joe, you got anything else on that?
Yeah, make the drinks. Let us know what you think of them. How close we are to the Disney recipes, because we do our best to approximate it. It's not like Disney is publishing these recipes, but we try and get as close as we can to what Disney does.
We have done our research. We have as close as possible. All right. So we still have our sponsor.
Our sponsor is Dreamport Creative Studios. They're on Etsy and Redbubble. They do around the world lanyards and other Disney themed downloadables. as well as craft brew themed stickers and T-shirts and lanyards.
You definitely need that around the world lanyard. If
You
you're going to do the trip around the I almost said International Pavilion. I don't know where that came from. That must have came from my Tokyo Sunset here. But yeah, you got to keep track.
You got to keep track. If you think you're going to remember everything, I'm sorry, you're not going to. By the time it's all over, you're not even going to know what you had in every country. So, take it from someone who's been around the world a few times. Gary has as well.
Yeah. So, drinks, Joe. What you want me to go first, or you want to go first with your drink?
I'll go first, sure.
All right.
What I have is the Galleon Gimlet.
Love it.
Right up there. Yeah, awesome. This is from the Ale and Compass at the Disney Yacht Club Resort. That's the new bar that's right in the lobby. Fantastic place to have a drink. Great servers, great bartenders there. They're awesome. And it has Plymouth Navy Strength Gin. Now, if people don't know what Navy Strength Gin is, Navy Strength Gin is 114 proof. This is the proof that the British Royal Navy would take the rum and the gin. Usually officers drank the gin and the sailors would drink the rum, and they would get a daily rum ration of 8 ounces, I believe, of rum. And
I love that. 8 ounces daily.
That's fantastic, right? Until
solid
Black's Hot Day. That went on until like 1970. But so the reason they call it Navy or gunpowder strength is because this is the strength that the spirit had to be in order, if it doused the gunpowder would still ignite. So you know this is not weak gin. It has Plymouth Navy Strength Gin, lime juice, and simple syrup, and it's $14. It used to be $11.25. It was actually a real bargain at that price. It's now $14. So many things right now are going up in price, and I think our drinks are going to start going up in price as well.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I think you're right. Yep. So that's a fantastic drink. Gimlet's one of my favorites. One of my definitely go-to in the summer drinks. It's like super light. Maybe not with the Navy Strength gin.
It's still real tasty. I gotta say,
it's super refreshing. Yeah,
it's awesome. Very tasty and refreshing. There's, Gary's a bourbon guy. I'm usually a rum guy, but there's one thing we definitely agree on is that we both love gin. So. Yeah,
gin is fantastic. Yep. Awesome. So my drink is the Tokyo Sunset. It is served in the restaurants in the Japan Pavilion, and I think it originated, and I could be wrong on this, but I think it originated at the walk-up sake kiosk. But I guess it was popular enough because now it's in the restaurants as well.
Right.
So it's 1 part Malibu coconut rum, 1 part peach tree schnapps, 1 part banana liqueur. It's essentially 3 parts pineapple juice, but I just kind of fill the glass. If I'm using like a pint glass, I have filled with ice, fill to the top, and give it a little drizzle of grenadine for the cool, gradient. It's a sunset. It's a nice gradient. It's beautiful. So that is $12. Used to be $8 when it first came out.
Yeah. I had to look it up because like I said, I had never really heard of this before. But $8, now $12. But
now $12. Yep.
Yep.
And that price came right from the Disney page this time, so I know I'm right. Yeah, I know I've had one of these in my around the world adventure at one point. It's a little bit, as you can tell from the ingredients, a little bit on the sweet side.
It's a bit of a sugar bomb.
Yeah, not typically what I'd go for. But I will say what's good is that, as you're going around the world, if you're hitting beer, this is a good cut of that.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A little refreshing,
Yeah.
Cut the beer out, and it's not going to knock you out,
Yeah, not overly strong. No, it's not Navy Strength Malibu.
No, it's not Navy Strength. Malibu doesn't make a Navy Strength. In fact, I don't think Malibu's even 80 proof. It's like 70 something proof.
Yeah,
70 proof. I think it's 70 proof.
It could be. It's everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely not something that's going to knock you out your butt. No doubt about that. Yep.
Yeah, as a rum guy, Malibu is not my. It's not in my collection. I'll put it that way.
Make sure you watch our drink videos because I like to give you the more you know as often as possible. But
That's right.
Malibu, made in Canada. Malibu, Taste of the Isles.
Canada. Yep.
Canada.
Taste of Canada. Well, there's some other spirits made in Canada. I think Gordon's gin is distilled in Canada now, at least the American version of it.
Oh, really? I did.
Yeah, the British version is distilled in Scotland at the same not Kentucky, at the same distillery as Tanqueray, but I think the American version, it comes from Canada. So
that's funny. I like that.
Yeah.
So there it is. Make sure you hop over to our channel on YouTube and check out our drink videos. Like them, comment, subscribe to our drink videos. We got a lot of subscribers lately. I'm kind of happy. You know,
yeah. Make the drinks and enjoy. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Cheers, Gary.
Cheers. Fantastic. All right. So, Joey, I gotta say, we reviewed what we did on our last podcast. Is there anything from the last podcast we screwed up? I thought there was something, and then I listened to it. I must have cut that out in editing, whatever.
But Gary, I will tell you, there was something I said that was wrong, but right now I do not remember it. I can't remember it. I listened to the podcast a couple times, and I usually will write it down and make a note of it. I didn't make a note this time, and I wasn't going to go back and listen for another time. So whatever it is, I'm sorry, everyone. It was one minor thing.
Hit us with an email.
Yeah,
let us know if you
caught it.
If you find something that we missed, or if you want to correct us on something that we missed, hit us with an email. We'd love to hear it because
sure, absolutely.
Yeah. We like to try to make sure that we make sense when we talk. So I was just hopping over to my email, making sure we didn't get anything that we missed because we do have another email, but I haven't had a chance to read it, so I'll have to take a look. So please email us. We can't push that enough. I mean, we want to entertain. So please let us know if it's something that you might find entertaining. We'd love to discuss it. We're in our future podcasts. We've lined up a few special guests, so those will be coming up. And who knows, if you email us you might become that special guest.
You could be.
You never know.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, don't be.
Yeah,
afraid.
We don't bite.
Yeah, you're gonna come out much more intellectual than we are. So
for sure, right now.
Yeah, right. So theme park news. We're gonna try to cut down our theme park news. We've been a little bit verbose because I guess we feel pretty strongly about what's going on and like to discuss it. So you want to start with this podcast news?
Sure. Of course, the main news is, we're all theme park fans. We're waiting for everything to reopen, and the reopenings are happening now. The Orlando reopenings, Universal already open to the general public on June the 5th, and so far the crowds have been light, sparse. It seems like everything is going well, and hopefully it continues. I'll find out, like I said, this coming weekend I should be going there, so I'll be able to report the next time exactly what's going on. SeaWorld, again, is Universal, by the way, requiring no reservations. SeaWorld, on the other hand, is requiring reservations. They are also open right now. Some people are saying there's not as much social distancing there or whatever. But like I said, I'll be there this coming weekend. I'll be able to report on that firsthand. But I'm just really anxious to get back and do some theme parking, even if it doesn't involve a lot of rides,
Yeah, just to get into the atmosphere.
To be there is going to be great.
to me, like that atmosphere is going to be so changed, I think. And like I said, I'm nervous about the whole thing, or more nervous about the thing. I don't know. I'm as a germaphobe,
right.
I'm slightly more nervous about the thing. But it's everyone else that I'm concerned about. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's other people who just aren't as, I guess, are as responsible.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like, and that's the kind of stuff. Well, bring it back to a couple podcasts before where the kid was licking the handrails. You know, that's the kind of stuff I can't see. Freaks me out a bit.
Not good now. Yeah, we everyone is at both Universal and SeaWorld, as we spoke in other podcasts, is going to be required to do temperature checks, wear masks. There's going to be social distancing. So we'll see how that works out.
Universal seems almost best suited for this, the way they have their the X-ray machines for, you know, the stuff you're carrying into the park in that central area of the parking garage. It seems perfectly suited for that. They they kind of lucked out in that, where they can funnel everyone through that, you know, or most people through that. Yeah.
Well, they did. I mean, SeaWorld, you know, I don't know how true this was, but the rumors were that their 2021 coaster was going to be, some people were saying, kind of like Gatekeeper at Cedar Point, which is a wing coaster from Bollinger and Mabillard, and they were going to, with the coaster, redo the front gate, because it is in the front area of the park. Right. So they were supposedly going to, because the SeaWorld front entrance is a little small and tends to get very crowded, especially over by the kiosks when people are trying to redeem tickets or redeem their free passes for their guests. This is the hand they're dealt right now. So they got to deal with it, and we'll see how everybody's dealing with it. I mean, I love SeaWorld. I have no doubts that if things are, whatever is not working, they will fix it. So they usually do a very good job, and they take care of their pass holders.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, SeaWorld is great. You know what? Speaking of pass holders, on a total separate, I have not heard from Six Flags yet, and I'm a pass holder. There's just
kind of weird
communication coming out of that at all. They originally said people are going to have to you know, do reservations.
Yeah.
For their park. I've heard nothing from my park, so
that's
I don't know.
Weird.
That's strange. Yeah.
And you're opening pretty soon, right? Not too far.
Typically, they would have been open already.
They would have been open already, but yeah.
So,
but SeaWorld, our pass, they have extended. I'm not going to have any payments until September for my pass. They've already, you know, they took the money for June, but there's no more payments until September. Universal, I called because I got a new card. I had to tell them the new card, and they said there won't be any payments until July for the Universal passes. So, and as Disney, my Disney pass expired yesterday. So, but I did tell them that I wanted to extend it because they gave two options. One was that you would just let your pass expire and there'd be no payments. And the other one was that you would put your pass on hold essentially. And then once the parks reopened, your payments would continue and your pass would be extended. So that's the option we chose. So we'll see when that goes into effect. Disney, if anybody hasn't heard, is not opening. I believe Animal Kingdom and I think is it Animal Kingdom and the Magic Kingdom are opening on the 11th.
That's what I heard, I believe.
And then, two parks are opening on the 11th, and I think it's Animal Kingdom and the Magic Kingdom, and two parks are opening on the 15th, and I believe it's Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Yeah. So that's how Disney's and Disney. If you go to the Screamscape has a really good list of all the parks and all the reopenings, and Disney is the very last. So there are. And of course, they have to be careful. They also have the biggest operation and infrastructure that they have to get up and running again. It's not like you can get
a switch.
Right. This is a big operation, and they can't just flip a switch like Gary says and start going again. So it's going to take a little bit of time. So hopefully, by the end of the summer, everything's up and running, and we don't have to worry about any future spikes and whatever.
Yeah. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, right?
Yeah, knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
So I'm gonna let you take the second one as well, because I know MLS near and dear to your heart. I can just add some color to a few things that I heard, but I know you want to talk about the MLS without a doubt.
Yeah, MLS is going to do a tournament, basically like a World Cup style tournament. It's going to all be at the Disney World of Sports. The entire league is going to be there. They're going to stay at the Swan and the Dolphin, and they're going to, like I say, World Cup type tournament where there's going to be groups, and then the groups are going to lead to knockout rounds, and then there'll be an eventual winner. The winner is going to go to receive a berth in the CONCACAF Champions League for next year. So that tournament is going to run from July 8th to August 11th. It should be exciting, even with no fans. I don't know if they're going to pipe in fan noise. If you watch the Bundesliga in Germany that's going on right now, they're piping in fan noise. Sometimes they're putting like fat heads of fans in the areas where the cameras might be. But it should be exciting. If you want to see how they did have the group draw already. It was this past Thursday. And if you want to see the draw, go to MLS.com. If you're only interested in the Florida teams, both Orlando City and Inter Miami are both in Group A. So they'll be both in Group A. And
the Revolution?
Revolution, I don't know what group they're in. I'm sorry, Garrett.
Just asking.
I'm sorry. But they're in there somewhere.
Yeah. Participation. They will play also. Yeah.
They will be there. Exactly. Actually, yeah. They got a much better team this year, so they could be a contender. It should be exciting because anytime there's a tournament like that, anybody could win. A team gets hot and they could win. So it should be a great way to start soccer up again in the United States. And the NBA will also be playing the rest of their season at World of Sports. They're going to be staying at, I believe, Animal Kingdom and Coronado Springs.
That to me, I don't see that. I'm surprised that they're taking So for what I heard too, that there's going to be based on the popularity of the team, they get to stay at the nicer places. Did you hear this? Oh my gosh, I did not hear that. Yeah. I think it was on Len Testa's podcast actually that they were discussing.
I didn't listen to the Disney dish this week.
Yeah,
so yeah, okay. So that means my team, the Orlando Magic, is going to be staying at their own homes probably.
Yeah, they have to rent. They have to rent.
They're at the Hampton Inn. They're at the Hampton Inn in the room next to me.
They're on International Drive. Yeah.
Yeah, right. OBT.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah.
I just don't see those. Coronado is beautiful. I love the hotel. One of my favorite hotels. One of my favorite pools.
I think they're taking taking over the tower, which is
makes sense.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's where I was supposed to be staying starting June 20th, but that's not happening. That is not happening. But the tower is gorgeous.
How's your dribbling?
Yeah, my dribbling.
Yeah,
I'll tell you after this drink. I'll tell you because it might start up. There's going to be some dribbling, I'm sure. But they're staying in the tower at Coronado Springs, which if nobody has seen, we've talked about on previous podcasts. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, and Animal Kingdom Lodge, which of course is gorgeous, and they'll be finishing out their season at Wide World of Sports. So there's a lot of sports going on, and that might be great for us Florida residents. But guess what? Nobody can go see anything because there's no spectators allowed. So Gary in Massachusetts and me in Florida, we're in equal spots because neither one of us can go see it. It doesn't matter. We're going to be watching it on TV.
So one of the things I did hear about this too is that the athletes are being not told not to, but they are it's sort of frowned upon to go to the parks
Both theme parks. No, for them or their families. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Which is going to be really tough.
Yeah. No, seriously, because
Yeah.
one of the concerns is that social distancing thing, because they can just get like mobbed by a crowd, especially more popular players,
Sure.
they just, even the mid players are just going to be sort of could potentially be mobbed constantly. So they're suggested not to go to the park.
The soccer players might be okay, but the NBA players are going to stand out. They're 7 feet tall, and exactly. 7 feet tall guys walking around. They just not everybody's 7 feet tall, so they're going to kind of stand out. So, but and of course everybody knows them. NBA, they don't wear helmets or anything. Everybody knows them. And they're popular. It's a great, popular league. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard for their families not to go to the theme parks and
so close.
Yeah, being right there, and it's going to be tough. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that holds up.
Yeah,
it should be interesting.
So, let's see. Should we move on to our top 5?
Let's do it.
I think, like I said last time, we're flying through.
We are. Well, we are, and I think, like I said, with the top 5 coasters in Orlando, I know that we're going to match up on some of these. So,
speaking of that, Joe, I like your hat.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. This is not a coaster in Orlando, but it is. I tell you what, if it was in Orlando, this would be in my top 5 for sure.
Exactly.
One of the best, probably the best. I will say I've not been on Nemesis over in England, but as far as inverted Bollinger Mabillard coasters that I've been on, Montu's number 1. So
it's awesome. Yeah, it's still like you said, it's smooth.
1996. It's 24 years old now. So
my gosh, I didn't do that math.
Yeah, and the inverted coasters are the ones that hold up the best, I think, and I think it's basically because your head is so close to the track, so there's not much head banging that goes on.
That's a good point. The further you get away from the track,
the more center of gravity goes away from the track. And that's why there are some coasters that maybe 10 or 15 years ago that are in Orlando that would have been on my list that are not on my list now, and it's only because coasters coasters get rough after a while, and in a harsh Florida environment with the humidity, heat, they get rough. They do, and there comes a point where I won't even ride them anymore because I just I've lost enough brain cells in my life. I don't want to lose more brain cells.
The perfect time to reach for your drink. That's what I thought you were doing.
Here, cheers.
All right, so top 5 best Orlando coasters. So why are we doing this time? Well, Orlando area surprisingly just isn't Disney. There's more outside the gates, like you said. Some might not believe that, but there's more to see and do around the area. And this time we're focusing on the coasters, but we have podcasts coming up where we'll focus on other things outside the gates of Disney. Yep.
Magical Express from the airport and right to Disney, and it's fantastic, but there are other things out there, believe it or not.
Yep. So we decided we don't talk about the list beforehand. We've said that in previous podcasts, but we decided this time that Harry Potter and Escape from Gringotts wasn't going to be considered because we both Joe and I feel it's a dark ride, not really a coaster.
Yeah, it's on coaster tracks, but I Gary and I both agree that we feel like Escape from Gringotts is a dark ride. It's not really. It's a dark ride on coaster tracks. It's not really.
Yeah, it's on a steel track.
Doesn't really have a coaster section like some others. It's basically the coaster is the vehicle that takes you through the dark ride. So it's we excluded that one. Otherwise, it's a great ride. It probably would be on my list. I don't know about Gary's, but it would probably be on my list. Another thing is, like I did say, that if this was done 10 or 15 years ago, There will be some different coasters on here. Also, if this was done 2 years from now in the future, we would have Tron, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, the Velocicoaster or the Jurassic Park coaster. We don't know if that's going to be the name. That's being built at Islands of, looking awesome. The oscillating helix was just put in, and it looks like it's going to be an amazing coaster. Icebreaker at SeaWorld, and whatever wing or surf coaster, whatever SeaWorld is planning to build next year, if it doesn't get scrapped due to COVID. All those would be built, and certainly some of them would be on this list as well. So this is a snapshot of June 2020. These are the top 5 coasters. This could happen again in the future, and the list could be completely different.
Yeah, people are going to be listening to this. Hopefully people are going to be listening to this. Maybe, in the future, be like, what? They didn't pick the Velocicoaster? It's the best ride ever. Or that, I can't believe the coaster that SeaWorld, the magic coaster that SeaWorld just put in. Unbelievable. I can't believe it wasn't mentioned. Right, but this is
so June in the future, when our relatives listen to this.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it will change. Yeah, you can't look back on this and say, oh, they didn't put this in, because this is before all those coasters were open. And it just goes to show you what a golden age of theme park rides this was going to be, and hopefully still is, even beyond this pandemic in Orlando. So,
cool. So should we get on with it? I think.
Let's do it.
I think you got to go first last time.
All right, you go first.
I think I will go first this time, and hopefully I gotta guess. If I was a betting man, I would say I'm stealing one of your choices right off the bat.
I would bet.
You're ready?
I'm ready. Go ahead, shoot. Let's do
Number
it.
5. It might be surprising to some people too. I might get hate mail, but number 5 is Space Mountain.
Oh yes, my friend. That is my number. That is my number 3.
All right. So it's in Tomorrowland at the Magic Kingdom. It opened on January 15th, 1975. It's steel, dual tracks, and it's enclosed within the gigantic Space Mountain building. Designed by Wet Enterprises. Yep. But it is an aero bobsled coaster. Yeah. There's a lot of
basically a wild mouse, I was gonna say.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. This is the point where I got to make my pitch for Disney Plus, because you have to watch Disney Plus, The Imagineer Story. Yeah. Absolutely great show. Don't miss it, especially if you're into the parks and stuff, and into the design and how that stuff was unbelievable. Really, there was a part that made me misty-eyed. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because it would kind of ruin. I was misty-eyed.
Involved Imagineer Bob Gurr.
Great. Bob's my man.
Bob, great Imagineer. But he wasn't involved with this. This was designed, I believe, John Hench designed this one. Yeah. Or John Hench he designed something called Spaceport that Walt kind of conceived of, and it kind of led into Space Mountain.
Yeah. So, like I said, it was aero bobsled. There's 2 different tracks, Alpha and Omega, and
10 feet difference.
Yep. you gotta go on Alpha, because if you go on Omega, you get robbed.
I can't tell you where the 10 feet is. There was a time when I swore it was on the longer drop. I'm like, this has a longer drop. But I'll tell you what, I think they both. The thing about Space Mountain is, depending on where you read it, it goes anywhere from 27 to 34 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. But it feels a lot faster than that, because it's always been dark, but right now it's in total darkness ever since they did the redo, which was in 2009, I think, or something like that, when they did put stereophonic sound in it, where they have a kind of a soundtrack written by Mike Giacchino. But it's it's like you never know what's coming next unless you've ridden it a lot of times like us.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I got the soundtrack, the music, written by Mike Brassel. Brassel. Right. Yeah. Okay. But that's a 2010 version, Mount Bob.
All right.
Yeah. So it could be different. I think it grabbed off a website somewhere. But I forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, pulls 3.7 Gs according to this article that I was reading. I did see that. Surprising.
I'm surprised too, but you know what?
It's high.
It is high. But it's just like I said. I mean, it's a wild mouse basically, but it's in the dark and it's got the theming and it's like this great retro theming too, which right now, which is awesome. Yeah. And it's a classic. It really is.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So I have a whole write-up on kind of the way the ride goes. So essentially, essentially, you get on the coaster, and it's single inline seating, 6 people per train, 2 trains connected together.
Not to break
which is still strange.
Not to break in, Gary, but do you remember when you had to put the other person in between? Yeah, you remember that, right? It was
not that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. The capacity was higher then, but it was not that comfortable.
It was absolutely not comfortable. Yeah, that was not that long ago because I remember in the 90s also like that. It was still, those trains were still there. Yeah. Yep. Bad. But leaving the loading station, you make a turn past the area, the queue, and mission control booth, and come to a stop at the holding brake, which is my favorite part because it's just like after that, going down that tunnel, it's just really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So once that holding brake is released, you basically go to the strobe tunnel of blue lights, which flash at gradually increasing frequency as the train progresses down the tunnel. The warping sound and lights signifies the charging of your energy for the trip. Here's the trick. Whichever way you turn, because you do take a turn, look towards the same way that train turns.
The camera. There's
the camera.
Make sure to pose.
Yeah, you'll have to send me one of your pictures, Joe. I'll put it on this so we can.
It's actually my Microsoft picture. Like every time I log on, I see that picture
because it's fantastic. Yeah, I got some good ones too. So, it helps when you ride the rides as often as we do. You can know where the in-ride photos are and make them quite entertaining. But the train climbs the lift hill under a space station, some astronauts, and once it gets to the top, quick dip, and then it's just no holds barred, back, forth, up, down, through the dark.
It's pretty much mayhem. It's mayhem from then on. If you've never been on it and you don't know what's coming, it's really mayhem.
It is. The only thing I always find tough for a first rider, and like you said, it goes between it's always 22 to 35 miles an hour. That's, but man, like you said, it feels so much faster. The turns are really, really tight, and you can't anticipate any of them because they're in the black, totally blackness.
Well, since they since the redo, they really enclosed it. I mean, like we talked about in a previous podcast, you used to be able to see Space Mountain from the People Mover. You could see the tracks and get a preview. You can't really see it anymore because it's so dark in there now. And unless you've ridden it 1,000 times, you know what's coming. You're not going to know, and it's kind of jarring. And it's not the smoothest coaster. It's from 1975, so
it's not. There's a few parts,
but it adds to it. I don't like rough coasters, but I think in this case it adds to it.
Yeah, because I don't think it's that. Like, you don't get off feeling like you've been in a car.
No, you don't. You really.
It's definitely it's a little.
It's not like Rip Ride Rocket where you're like, oh my god, yeah. Because the transitions are good. The transitions are well designed. It's a well designed coaster. It's designed in a way that it's fun. Yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to see consistency, at least from my list. I'm sure from Gary's too. All these coasters are fun.
Yeah.
You're not.
Rip Ride Rocket doesn't make my list, by the way.
No, Rip Ride Rocket is not on my list either.
It is so not fun.
It's not fun. The transitions are bad.
So rough.
Just yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah. I mean, the story of that one is, Universal, I think, wanted Bollinger and Mabillard to design it, but they were busy at the time. I think they were designing SheiKra, or I don't know, maybe not. I don't know. Who knows? But they were too busy to design it, so they got like Maurer Sohn, or it's another German company that only did smaller coasters, and it was out of their league.
Yeah,
they've had a lot of problems since then, and it's rough, and the transitions are not good, and it's just not fun. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It should be. It looks great. I will say it looks awesome in the park, especially with the lights and everything. Fantastic. It looks great, but I don't enjoy riding it that much.
No, our suggestion for that one, if you're a first time, you got to ride it because it's there and it's a good coaster, and it's got that super cool lift hill straight up.
Yeah, straight up lift hill. You got to do it at least once, right?
Yeah, but be warned.
Be warned. Hold on tight.
Hold on tight.
Put a rag in your mouth.
Yeah. So back to Space Mountain. So the ride ends. The train passes through a swirling red wormhole, which signifies you basically coming up to the end of your journey, and you get to the unload station of the space station. You're finally at the space station. That is pretty much it. I have some cool stuff listed here, though. My favorite things. Joe, references to Horizons and Space Mountain.
Yeah, at the unload, at the post show, as you're going up the speed ramp, right? We talked about the speed.
That's the last one.
You're going up the speed ramp. Of course, you get the one moment where everybody is on camera, which somehow never gets old. Even in today's day and age, we're all on camera all the time, even when we don't want to be. Still, being on camera is exciting, and seeing yourself. But there's I think there's references to Mesa Verde and some of the other things in Horizons. Yeah,
one of the bags and baggage claim has it. Yeah, it's right on the left when you start heading your way up. It's got a Mesa Verde. There's also a desert scene. That's reminiscent of the Horizons
desert scene in Horizons. And there used to be the song We've Come So Far, the RCA song, when RCA sponsored it. I mean, if you look up some of the older Space Mountain songs, Space Mountain has some great music. The Star Tunnel and We've Come So Far, and I
still occasionally find myself whistling the Star Tunnel part. You know that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love the Star Tunnel. I really do. I really do. And we talked about Space Mountain Television in the last podcast. It was great during that time in the 90s and 2000s when right after the entire Tomorrowland was redone. They had a great video playing in the queue, a funny video that was awesome.
Yeah, it was great, and still, I think we mentioned it in the last podcast. The last time we talked about Tomorrow, that's our favorite Tomorrowland.
It is,
without
doubt. Yeah, love that one.
All right, so I think that's my number 5. I stole your number 3, but that gives you the chance to have your number 5.
All right. All right, well, my number 5 is Expedition Everest. I don't know if it's on your list at Disney's Animal Kingdom. It is on your list.
Of course it's on my list. It's my number 2.
Your number 2, okay, yeah. It's my number 5. It's a great ride.
Legend of the Forbidden Mountain.
Legend of the Forbidden Mountain, yep. Up until the time that Hagrid's opened at Islands of Adventure, this was the most expensive coaster ever built. Of course, it's got the Yeti, which is now the Disco Yeti, infamous Disco Yeti, but still impressive. And it's just a great ride. And 199 and a half feet tall is the mountain.
Hey, why is that, Joe?
the more you know. The more you know, because Florida law
know.
says if it was 200 feet tall, they would need a flashing red beacon on it for airplanes. So 199 feet and a half feet, rather, is the height of Expedition Everest. I don't know about you, Gary, but when you go up the lift hill Expedition Everest, it seems taller than 199 and a half feet. It really does.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It goes forward.
I had to add a little before you go ahead.
Sure, go ahead. Absolutely, add.
Taller by taller. It's 6 inches taller than the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Yeah,
just to let you know, 6 inches.
Half foot. Yeah. Which makes it the tallest ride at Walt Disney World.
So I gotta say though, in total digression here, but I gotta say that, the same reason they didn't want a flashing beacon on the Tower of Terror, but to me it sort of fits on the Tower of Terror. Buildings have beacons,
It could. It could fit.
It absolutely wouldn't fit on
no,
Everest,
not on Everest. But, no. Well, it wouldn't be so bad on the Tower of Terror, but
right. So make it higher, 300 feet. Let's do this.
Yep. This is a Disney policy. They don't want to go any higher than that. And it also seems to be kind of an Orlando-wide policy because the rides seem to stop at 200 feet. They don't go any higher than that.
Ironically, that's one of the rides on my list. I'll be talking about.
Mine too.
Oddly enough,
a ride on my list is 200 feet exactly. I bet yours and mine are the same one.
Matter of fact, it is probably. Yep. But sorry, back to Expedition.
Back to Everest. Of course, it has a great queue in the Disney tradition. It's kind of like a Yeti museum. I remember this opened in 2006 or 2006 I remember waiting in line for this in previews. This was back when Disney would do a preview for the rides. They would soft open them and waiting through the entire queue, seeing the Yeti Museum and seeing all the footprints, and even to the point where they have I think they have Yeti scat there.
Yeti poop. I mentioned it in mine. Absolutely, I think that's hysterical. I have 1,000 pictures of Yeti poop, of course, because why not? It's ridiculous. I love it.
But
yeah, the actual
Gary and I are both very mature.
Yeah. That's true.
But and then you get to the ride. It's themed as a steam train through the Himalayas, up Mount Everest. It really, really, it's a. By the way, the tracks designed by Vekoma. This was their new system. Vekoma, Disney has been using forever to do their roller coasters. They originally used Arrow for a lot of the Matterhorn bobsleds and is Space Mountain, is that Arrow too? I think that's Arrow too.
Arrow. Yep,
it is Arrow. Okay. Yeah. So but then they switched to Vekoma, and Vekoma has a reputation for their coasters not holding up that well and getting rough. And if you ride Rock and Roller Coaster right now, it's pretty rough. It's not.
Did not make my list. Too rough.
It did not make my list either. Too rough.
Too rough.
Hasn't held up well, even though it's indoors. But this was a new system for Vekoma. They moved the wheels to, I believe, the outside of the track, and it's a lot smoother, and it has held up well.
Yeah, it is smooth and
very smooth. And you come out of the station, and you go down a dip, and around a little bit of a helix, and go up the main lift hill, and
steep lift hill.
Steep lift hill. And you get great views of the rest of the park and all of Walt Disney World. When you get to the top of the lift hill, there's a small grade that you slowly build, going around a little bit of a helix, and you come to an area where the tracks have been ripped out by the Yeti,
torn up
by the Yeti. And I don't know if the bird is there. There used to be a bird flying there. It was great.
Bird on a stick.
Bird on a stick. And the great thing, I remember when they were redoing that section, it was awesome because you would come to that point and there wouldn't be that fake track, and it would be, you would just like, if you were in the front row, you were like right at the edge. I mean, you're like, it was like, well, seriously frightening.
Knowing that the track was there, always
right,
going on the ride, being in the front, and then not seeing the track there and getting right to that edge, I was having a heart attack straight up. Because the only thing I envisioned is that the train before us went off, took the track with it, and we're next. Because holy smokes, that thing goes right to when those tracks aren't there, they give you a
goes right to the edge.
It goes like security. Man, this thing goes right to the edge. And when you're in that front seat, there's not a lot in front of you, kind of, so it is, you are just right off the side of Everest. It's a long way down from Everest.
It's 30,000 way down. We talked about it already, right?
Yeah.
199.5 feet. That's not the top of the mountain, but it's tall enough. Yeah. But me, I don't really like heights. So that's not, I love coasters, but I don't like heights, and a whole nother story. But that was frightening. And of course you stop there, and you then move backwards through kind of a backwards helix that really gives you.
Wait.
Go ahead.
I'm still up on the hill waiting.
All right, go ahead. Stop. Gary's on the hill.
Yeah.
Tell us, Gary.
Someone absolutely has to email us and just let us know if they have any insight as to why there are so many hair ties up in the snow on top of that. Why are people taking out the hair ties and throwing them on the simulated snow? I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. I guess all it takes is one person to throw their hair tie or lose their hair tie, and everyone else is throwing their hair ties. I gotta think. How it goes.
We're all copycats, Gary. One person throws in, that's it.
I've never thrown my hair tie. I need it.
Yeah. I don't usually have a hair tie. I don't have enough hair. Anyway, beyond the hair ties.
That's all.
After you see the hair ties and you're bewildered by that, you start moving backwards, and you go through a backwards helix, and it goes faster and faster, and really. Then it starts moving upwards, and it gives you kind of a sensation that you do not feel on every coaster, which I will say, I don't know if it's pleasant or unpleasant, but I've come to like appreciate it, because it's one of those things like I say, you don't feel on every coaster, and it's not awful. No,
it is. It's thrilling. It sort of takes your breath away. It's thrilling. You always feel it in your stomach. I know that we've had this discussion at the bar, right at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
We got ourselves an old elephant foot, and we always discuss. We've been on the ride I don't know,
many times.
Many
Just say many.
It gets me every single time.
Every time.
Helix. Yep. At the end of that helix, there's just something about it. It just gets you right in the stomach, and it's thrilling. It's not, like you said, it's not uncomfortable.
Right.
It's definitely it's not. It doesn't grab a hold of you. It's a quick feeling, and it's thrilling. Yep. But
it's one of those, it makes the ride. It's unique to that ride. I've ridden a lot of coasters in my life. Never felt anything like that on any other coaster.
No.
So, no.
And you just can't get used to it. I've ridden the coaster like 3-4 times in a row because towards the end of the night, occasionally, this probably doesn't happen as much anymore, but it was when the parks were a little less crowded. If no one got in your line to get on,
ride again.
Just go again. Yeah.
Just go again.
It like 4 times in a row, every single time. It's just not something you could get used to.
Thing. Right. Yep. And even some extreme coasters, like the Hulk. I've ridden the Hulk like 9 times in a row. I've ridden Kraken like
the Hulk. You said.
Yeah, the Hulk like 23 times in a day. And I will tell you get used to things. When because the Hulk at first will surprise you. There's some when after the beginning of the you go through your Cobra roll, first your 0G, then your Cobra roll, and then your loop, and then it changes direction, and that used to get you, but after a while you get used to it. It's there, but
no reason, Joe.
What's that?
No reason. Let's not talk about the Hulk right now.
No reason. Let's not talk about the Hulk.
No reason. I don't mean to stop you dead, but no reason.
Stop me dead. Okay, we'll talk about it another time. I don't know when that other time's going to be, but we'll talk about it another time.
Maybe later.
But anyway, you get used to that transition. You don't ever get used to this backwards portion of Expedition Everest. You just don't. No. And it's great. And then from there, you stop, you hold, and you see a projection of the Yeti ripping the tracks up, and you change direction, go down the largest hill in the ride,
and that's probably where you pick up the biggest G's.
You do, yeah. At the bottom of that hill, I think you pick up the biggest G's.
Yeah, and 3 G's, which is totally comfortable for anybody.
Yeah,
it sort of borders family coaster and regular, more I don't know, seasoned coaster riders. It's right on that precipice.
It is.
You know what I mean?
It's your Disney coaster where they want everybody who wants to ride a coaster to be able to ride it.
Yeah. But it's more coastery than Seven Dwarfs. It's
much more coastery. Which Seven Dwarfs also has the same like Vekoma system, except the cars do swing on that one,
which is awesome.
Yeah. It was kind of awesome, it is more coastery, but it's not extreme. It goes 50 miles an hour. That's not slow by any stretch of the means. We just talked about Space Mountain that goes, between 27 and 34. So, but it's a great ride. It's well worth wasting a fast pass on or waiting in line. The line seems to go fast lately. I haven't had to fast pass. Keep it secret. And they do have single rider.
Single rider, yeah.
Single rider, yeah.
Never. Like the line can be an hour long. Your single rider line goes incredibly fast. I've never waited for more than 15 minutes in the single rider line.
Right.
And the single rider line is not easy to see. That's it. No, it's sort of tucked in that
far to the right. Corner. You miss all the queue, pretty much all the queue. A little bit of the queue, but pretty much all the queue.
Yeah, you miss pretty much all the queue. Yeah,
but you may wait a lot less. So you keep an eye out for single rider on Expedition Everest. Yeah. But another thing is front and back seats. Well, of course, it goes forward and backwards. And we just told you the backwards section is kind of extreme and fun. So the front seat is fun, but when you go backwards, you get the most forces in the front seat because you're at the end of the train. So it's got a different, highly different experience from both the front and the back. But I love it. Love Expedition. So that's my number 5.
So I will say, even though the Yeti is currently in its catatonic state,
and talk about the Yeti, right?
Right. So even though it still is,
it awesome is. Even in the B mode, I mean, look, you wrote it in the A mode. I wrote it in the A mode. It's great, but you did go by it like extremely fast. Okay, I mean, it was like, okay, he swipes at you and you go by. It was fantastic. I totally understand that it's a complicated ride. That the Yeti has forces that are equal to a 747, and he is on his own pedestal, which is like 40
right into the foundation.
Right into the foundation. His pedestal is like 40 something feet tall. And he's perched on that. The mountain is built around him and the coaster is built around him. So it's not an easy thing to fix. Yeah. It's really not the easiest thing to fix. And it'd be great if they fix the Yeti. Of course, we would love to see Disco Yeti go away and the Yeti come back. But that being said, it's still a great ride, even with the B mode going for the Yeti.
Joe Rohde promised.
He did. He promised. He said one day the Yeti will be fixed.
What we figured that it was one of our listeners actually said, it would be great right now while everything's closed. Fix the Yeti.
Fix the Yeti. Exactly. He promised me. He was sitting at the Nomad Lounge right next to me and told me and Amy that he was going to fix the Yeti.
Took one of his egg rolls and say, hey.
He did. He did. He said, tell Gary I'm going to fix the Yeti. So one day it will happen.
One day. Yeah. But it if you've never rode it, when the Yeti was in A mode. B mode is still super cool. The thing is gigantic. It's awesome. Surprising. It's awesome to look at. It looks, if you had a vision of a Yeti attacking, that is your vision.
That would be it.
It's somewhat terrifying. Yeah,
it is. But like we said,
another thing about this ride, 2 minutes and 50 seconons. That is a solid.
It is
roller coaster.
For a roller coaster, that's solid, right? Well, because there's a pre-lift hill section, and then there's a post-lift hill section, and then of course after the backwards section, you pause, and there's a show section, which it makes it a little bit more than a roller coaster, which is puts it up on my list for sure.
Yeah, way up on my list. Number two.
Number two, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 5 on mine, 2 on yours. So, Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain. By the way, great pictures too.
Down the hill.
Yeah.
Right before you head down that big lift hill.
Oh yeah. But I'm talking even off the ride. If you want to take pictures around Animal Kingdom of your group, there's some great photo spots that have the mountain in the background. It looks awesome.
A lot of photo people there also.
Yep. Photo pass right there.
Yep. Cool.
All right.
So you're number 4 and my number 2.
We matched up. Imagine that.
Shocker.
2 times so far. How did that happen?
So strange. So my number 4, we're moving on. You have anything more about the
No, I'm
moving right on. Moving right along, I'm going to SeaWorld.
All right.
And it's going to be the Kraken.
The Kraken.
Yeah. Now I will say, because it's been a little while since I've been on it, I did hear from you, as a matter of fact, that it's a little bit rougher than it used to be.
Yeah.
Back when I rode it, it was smooth. I
was going to say it's not on my list because it got rougher. But I will say the Kraken is a fantastic coaster. If they ever decided to refurbish or rebuild it or put new rolling stock on it or somehow go back to the way it was at the beginning, I would, without a doubt, it'd be back on my list again. I love the Kraken.
It's so good. Yeah, it's one of those roller coasters that basically starts out. Once it goes down the hill, it does not let up until you are done. It is just a solid coaster with 7 inversions, high speed, just a steep drop, a couple steep drops.
150 foot drop, Bollinger and Mabillard designed, floorless.
For the record,
floorless
I say
coaster.
B&M, by the way.
B&M. B&M.
Yeah, floorless coaster, and it goes right with your theory. If it's getting rough, it goes right with your theory.
Yeah, because
you lift it up off the track, the higher you go, the rougher it's going to be.
The rougher it gets. And the very roughest of all, we both know, is the B&M stand-up coasters, which
I will never ride another stand-up coaster.
Never again.
No.
Beating my head took on the stand-up coasters.
Bad. Yeah, rough all around. But I'll give you some stats because I did take down the stats. All so right. As they are from web pages, including wiki
somewhere pages. By the way, somewhere I do have a hat that says Kraken too. By the way.
Awesome. 153 foot high with a 144 foot drop. And I will say, the first time I was on that drop, we have a little story because we almost ran into each other, didn't we?
We did. We probably wrote it very closely, like the same week, probably.
Yeah. I was telling Joe that the press in like roller coaster clubs and stuff like that got off the ride, and then they opened it to the general public, and I was the next ride, and Joe's like, "What?" Basically, that was getting off the ride.
I was in the Florida Coaster Club at the time, and in order to take some publicity photos for the 4th of July, because Kraken opened.
Actually June 1st.
June. Okay, yeah, but right, they were doing publicity for 4th of July, so this was probably late June, and we met in the parking lot, got into SeaWorld early. We all put on either a red, white, or blue sweatshirt and sweatpants, and did face paint, either red, white, or blue. I was red. And rode Kraken with a gentleman in the front dressed as Uncle Sam, which was fantastic. And of course, awesome. they had the camera mount on the front, and they made us ride it, I think twice, maybe 3 times. And then when we were done, we got to go wash our face paint off, which didn't come off quite all the way. And I felt bad for the people who did white, because they looked like they were in Kabuki theater. Yeah, like ghosts. Yeah. But anyway, and then they said, okay, the park is yours. Go out, and you get SeaWorld for the rest of the day, which was great. So we Kraken on that day was slow, and I think we rode it 23 or 24 times that day. It was it's so smooth. At that time, it was so smooth, and the elements were so great. Just great coaster.
You know, it's funny you say that, because and I know we've talked about this, but you said you rode it somewhere around 20 times, and I definitely rode it somewhere around 8 or 10 times. I believe. So I bet you we rode it together at some point.
I guarantee we were on the same train somewhere along the time.
That's pretty fun. Yeah. Let's say 4 Gs, 3.9 Gs.
Yeah.
Although I was trying to figure out where in the ride that probably at the bottom of the loop, the first loop. Yes.
I was going to say, probably at the bottom of that first loop. Because I think it went, I'm trying to remember, like loop, Cobra roll, and then 0G. I do remember that 0G roll on Kraken was one of the best designed 0G rolls that I've ever been on. Absolutely. And you would literally be floating off your seat when you did that 0G roll. And then you would go up into the brake run, and from there you'd go down. I think there was another loop, and there was a corkscrew that went kind of underground, and
that's
I like the brakes. It was really, and I like that. That's something that Montu has too. You know, kind of a surprise corkscrew after the brake run that's kind of hidden underground, and it's really a cool element.
So I will say there are definitely cool elements. The first hill being cool because you're it being a floorless coaster, you're a little bit off the track, so it feels a little bit more extreme.
And you don't go right down right away. You kind of go, go around the corner and
Yep. So here's my problem. Oh, you know what makes this ride even cooler now? Though, again, rough, but you get a good view of Mako. It's really like you could really see Mako's hills from this. So that's kind of cool.
They almost kind of intertwine. They're very close to each other, because Kraken goes past like the Pacific Point Preserve where all the sea lions are, and Mako's kind of on the other side of the park, but they're both big and they kind of meet.
Right at one of the hills.
Mako is pretty much an out and back, but
you get a good view of actually how tall that is compared to
you do.
And the speeds and the steepness at which it's going. I'm not going to go into talking about the Mako, because it just seems like we might be something we might talk about later.
Possibly might talk about Mako later on in this podcast.
So here's my problem with Kraken, and this is why I ended up being 4 instead of any higher, because it really is one of my old time favorite rides. But I feel on Kraken that they missed the possibility of a lot of theming. There is that end where you go into the subterranean lair, the cave of the Kraken. Right. But that lasts a second.
It does. You're in and out. You do the Cobra roll and you're in and out, and it's like, and another thing is, when we think of a Kraken, almost everybody thinks of a giant squid, and for some reason, SeaWorld, the Kraken is a moray eel. It's a big moray eel.
Because I was gonna say that fit the roller coaster motif better, but a squid's arms could be, I guess, the same. But my thought is, I think they just missed theming. I mean, how hard would it have been to cover over those underground parts a few times? Make it a little bit more interesting. I don't know. But
even in the queue, it's the aquarium. It's nothing like Manta. Manta has awesome theming in the queue. The aquarium is fantastic, and
I will say that
Manta's not my cup of tea,
weak.
but yeah,
the Kraken,
yeah,
Kraken cube,
it is
weak,
yeah.
Super weak, yeah. Old school roller coaster line. That's it.
Yeah.
It's
where
nothing.
Like Manta and Mako both have a score. And Kraken does not. Kraken doesn't have a score. And then of course they tried to do the VR thing on Kraken, and that was a big bust because it takes just it takes too long. It's too long. It takes too long to and I can imagine it would be a nightmare right now. They'd have to sanitize those goggles every time.
and one of the reasons I didn't ride it was because there's no way I was going to put that on my face. As much as I wanted to sort of see what that was.
I don't think you had to. You could decline the VR.
You could decline it, but I really wanted to see it.
Yeah. You could leave it sitting in the thing in front of you, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it was a cool idea, but there's no way they could get people on and off the ride.
Like, what was it? It was Kraken Unleashed, I think it was called.
Unleashed. Yeah. It led to super lines. It was
awful.
The park could be empty and Kraken's line could be an hour long. Yep.
Or more.
Well, yeah.
More. Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's my number 4. I highly recommend it still. Like you said, it's going to beat you up a little bit, but I feel like that's one of those rides. If you're at SeaWorld, you kind of got to ride it because it's cool. It's a
really, if you've never ridden it, it's a good coaster.
65 miles an hour.
It's a little rough now, but it's the elements are fantastic. The transitions are fantastic. B&M makes a great coaster. Again, like we were talking about, the inverted ones probably hold up the best in Florida, especially because your head is closer to the tracks and center of gravity, and you don't get beat up as much. But it's still a great ride. Kraken's a great ride.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Yeah, that's my number 4.
Number 4. All right. Yep. We're moving on.
Yeah, we're moving on. I believe. But where are we? We're at your number 4.
We're at my number 4, and I think my number 3 was already done because it was Space Mountain. So.
Yep.
So my number 4 is we talked in previous podcasts about how sometimes a ride is taken away and it's replaced by something that's not quite as good. In this case, this was a ride that was taken away that I loved, and I think you probably loved it as well. And the replacement was just as good, if not better, than the ride. And it's Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios.
Love that ride. Yeah. I love that ride. It's so good. Yeah, that is definitely one of my top ones. It didn't make my list only because there wasn't room.
Right.
Right. Like because
everything couldn't be there, so that's the way it goes.
Where's my coffee? Sorry,
right.
Mummy.
Would have been better if I just got my cup of coffee. So, Revenge of the Mummy is a combo dark ride roller coaster. It made the list because it's more of a coaster than say
it has coaster elements.
And when Gringotts was being built, people kind of thought it was going to be like Revenge of the Mummy. It's not. It's more of a dark ride than it is a roller coaster. Revenge of the Mummy is based on the Mummy franchise. It starred Brendan Fraser, that came out in what was it, the 1990s or the late 90s, early 2000s. Funny movies, funny horror movies. Really, I enjoy those movies, actually.
They're awesome. Yeah, I love them. They're not going to win an Academy Award.
No,
but,
they're not winning. Actually, but they're fun to watch. And
didn't the first one wasn't the first one nominated for special effects or something? Maybe
it might have been. It was good. I'll tell you what, it had great special effects.
Oh, it did.
But it's based on those movies. It's in the building where Confrontation was, the original Confrontation from Universal Studios, Florida, where you met up with King Kong and you were riding on the Roosevelt Island tram, and he had the banana breath and kind of pushed the tram, threw your tram down a little bit. It was a great ride. It was great. The theming was fantastic. Looked like the Roosevelt Island tram.
Absolutely
it really was spot on. Really great theming. And when they announced that Kong was going, they held a big farewell party for Kong. I remember. I think I was a pass holder at the time, got invited, and I didn't make that. But we were all like, okay, what could be better than Kong? So they built this ride based on Revenge of the Mummy, and the coaster portion is designed by Premier Rides, who is a Universal. Are they working? Who's working with Premier Rides again? I'm trying to think.
I don't know. And I actually didn't know it was Premier Rides that did that.
Yeah, it's designed by Premier Rides. Anyway, I'll remember it.
Your notes.
I have no notes. I have no notes for roller coasters. But anyway, designed by Premier Rides. They did the Escape from Gringotts coaster portion, or the tracks, or they were part of the track. I think Intimate and combined on that. So they were involved with that. So they designed the coaster portion of this. It's you start out, you're going the queue, first of all, is great. Because
it's fantastic. This is one of those rides that you get the joke about the coffee if you get to go through the whole queue.
Well, here's the thing. The line is never long enough for you to get the joke about the coffee. And that's the problem. Because all through the queue, they're talking about a curse. They're filming a movie with the mummy, and they're talking about a real curse that's going on the set. And they're interviewing all these different characters, and they interview, I think, all the stars, and also the intern Reggie, who actually is in the ride. Who, if you don't see his interview, you don't know who he is, right? But they're all talking about. There's some weird stuff going on here. There's really weird stuff, but you go through that section too fast and nobody understands it.
Right. Yep.
You go past some artifacts. There's some different scares where if you're in the line, you can scare somebody who's ahead of you in the line or behind you in the line. There's a part where you have to reach in, and I think it's like a charm or something. But I always say it looks like a cheeseburger. Looks like a cheeseburger to me. Reach in and grab the cheeseburger, or scare the people in front of you in line, and then eventually you reach these stairs where you ascend the stairs, and it splits. There's a left track and a right track. They're identical, and you go load into your carts. They're basically just roller coasters,
Not super comfortable though.
Not the most super comfortable. Yeah, the restraints are definitely they restrain you. Yeah, they restrain you, right? And you're very upright. You're very upright.
Yeah, very upright. Yeah.
You're very upright. So as you head out of the station and you see the Magi. Of course, you're told in the queue that the Magi can save you. The symbol of the Magi, and you go around the corner, and as you come out, you see the mummy and Reggie, who's in his sarcophagus, all wrapped up in cloth.
Except for his baseball hat.
Except for his baseball hat. Yeah. The curse! Are you crazy? The curse! It's real! Silence! Yeah. With your souls, I will rule for all eternity.
a reoccurring theme throughout the ride.
and he sucks Reggie's soul out, and you go around the corner.
Cool special effects, by the way.
Really cool special effects. Cool. Yeah, good animatronics. You can see they have a kind of a bar behind them or whatever, but they move smooth and they're cool. Yeah. And you go around the corner, and at the end of there's a big room with lots of treasure on both sides, and at the end,
coolest part.
Yeah, the mummy comes on the end, and he's like, either serve me and savor riches beyond measure, or decline and savor a more bitter fate, or something like that. and these warrior mummies pop up, flames. It's just
way your day job, actor. But good thing you have a day job. Just saying.
That's right. Not gonna be not going to be in any. I'm not going to be in any of these ride videos for sure. Anyway, so you move on from that room. The door is closing. You just squeeze underneath it. You come up to a wall, stop dead. Everybody's like, oh, because you really stop dead. And in front of you, these scarab beetles come pouring out of the wall. They used to have like air that would blow on your legs. I haven't felt it in quite a long time. I don't know if it's even there anymore.
And there was way more scarab beetles that used to fall, like the actual scarab beetles fall like a lot more. Yeah, but still creepy. Still super creepy.
Still creepy, still cool. If you've never ridden it before, it's great. So from there, you move backwards, and you kind of like, and it's a very short section. You go down a dip, but you stop very suddenly, and everybody's like always like, oh, that too. If you're not ready for it, you stop real suddenly.
It's abrupt.
Right, and you pivot around, and at the top of a long tunnel, because it goes up an incline, is the mummy, and he's basically telling you, not even the Magi can save you now. Your soul are mine. And you go up the hill, you get launched up. There's a limb launch, and you go into the coaster portion, and it's great. You go basic. I don't want to say it's kind of like Rock and Roller Coaster, but you do go by flat projections of warrior mummies.
Warriors,
and they're lit up in strobe lights, and but the coaster to me seems more exciting than Rock and Roller Coaster. It's got the pacing.
Well, because you're not trying to, the whole time you're not trying to stay in one piece.
Right.
It's definitely way
It's fun. You're laughing. It's fun. It's a good coaster.
Yeah, you're not like, oh my gosh, I think I just snapped my neck. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. No inversions. Nope. And then you come up, and it's like, this ride is only 2,200 feet. You stop, and you come to this platform, and there's a fake unload scene, which is so cool.
My favorite part. I think that's so cool.
There's a silhouette of a female attendant, and she's like, please gather all your belongings, as you exit the trains, whatever. And then the mummy comes out and like steals her soul. I think
melts her.
Yeah. And the ceiling goes on fire, and nobody does fire and explosions better than Universal, I gotta say. And you feel the heat. It's so hot, and you get launched from that platform down the steepest drop in the ride, and the camera's there, so if definitely have to do a pose right there if you know it's coming. And you go through the last portion of the ride and come to the unload platform, the real unload platform, and the rest of the video plays where Brendan Fraser says, I would have enjoyed this interview more if I had gotten my cup of coffee. And then this detached like mummy hand comes out and hands him a cup of coffee, and he's like, ah!
That's awesome.
And nobody understands it, but the people who
had to wait in line.
Wrote it back in the day where they had to actually wait in line.
Yeah.
So
that is awesome. I feel like now that now you're describing it, and definitely the acting was dead on. Made me feel like no, you're acting.
Well,
made
my
me feel
acting.
Like should have put it on the list.
It reminds me of the time. There was a time when just before they closed Jaws, where they had some skippers out in front of Jaws. It was cold. It was definitely wintertime. And there were Jaws skippers right out in front. And they were telling people basically Jaws is closed and you can't ride Jaws. And we came up there and we're like, oh, man, we love Jaws. And they're like, well, we'll just act it out for you. And we sat there on the wall, us and probably two other groups. And these skippers acted out the whole ride. It was just
that's
awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
It was so awesome. And I wish I videoed it because it was the best.
That's too bad. Yeah.
It was awesome. And
I bet that video's got to be somewhere on the web. We'll have to look for that.
It might be, yeah. I don't know how many times they did it, but yeah, they did it for us, and it was great.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I guess cool team members. Really cool.
Yeah. So great pick. Yeah, I love that ride. Yeah, fantastic. If you're in Universal, do not miss that ride. Although it's easy to miss. That's another ride that's kind of easy to miss.
it's easy to miss unless they have those guys on stilts out there, the Pharaoh guys on stilts. You can't miss that. Right out, it's in New York, in the Museum of the Antiquities, by right across from where the Blues Brothers are, and Finnegan's bar.
I do enjoy Finnegan.
Not that we know anything about bars, Gareth, but right across from Finnegan's. But
I really like that bar.
Yeah, it's a
good
great
Guinness.
place. Really good. Really good. But yeah, you can miss it, but try not to miss it. Really, this is a ride that all ages love this ride. Kids of all ages. I know your daughter loves it.
Absolutely loves it. Yep.
Yeah. My wife loves it. My wife is not a big coaster person, but she loves this ride. My niece, who is a big coaster person and will ride anything, and even did like the what is the thing called? The 400-foot tower, the Sky Coaster. What is that? What is that thing? Oh yeah, she did that in Orlando. I mean, she'll do anything, and she loves the Mummy, one of her favorite rides. So yeah, it's everybody loves the Mummy. So don't miss it. You go to Universal Studios Florida.
Yep. Very good. Good pick.
Thank you.
So yeah. So we're on my number 3.
Gary's number 3.
I believe this number 3 is probably on Joe's list, given the fact that we've talked about this ride a number of times. And I think actually upon my riding it, I believe I had called him and was like, I may have ridden it before you. I don't really remember how this went, but it's the Mako.
The Mako. Yes.
The Mako.
The Mako is absolutely. That's my number 1, Gary, by the way.
Is it? I had a feeling that I didn't want to, but I couldn't have it on my list. I could not have it on my list, and I was trying to figure out where to put it. But there you go. SeaWorld Orlando, open June 10th, 2016. Yep. B&M again. We seem to like B&M coasters, huh?
All at your Mount Yard. Well, they're the most expensive coasters, but they're also the smoothest, and so they used to have the reputation as the best. Kind of maybe fading now because they don't do things that are as exciting as maybe some of the other coaster designers, but they are consistently good. Consistently good, I will say that. And you might spend the most money, but you're going to get your money's worth out of a B&M roller coaster. Yeah. And
so considered a hyper coaster, 200 feet tall.
200 feet tall. And I will say it. You know what? You think 200 feet doesn't sound in today's day and age like much, but Mako packs a lot into its 200-foot, out and back.
Oh, without a doubt. It feels like every one of those hills is 200 feet.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but it feels that way. It's almost 4,800 feet of track, which is pretty long. Yep. It top speed 73 miles an hour, no inversions.
Yep.
It's just an awesome ride. Like, it is a 200-foot drop, and that first drop was incredibly thrilling. It's very steep. I don't have the note on actually how steep that first hill is.
It's 80 degrees or more. It's very steep. Yeah, it is.
It's steep, and it's definitely hitting 73 miles an hour. But
that's your top speed at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It does its first turn and brings it to its second hill. Yeah. That second hill had so much airtime for me. And the third.
Yeah. Well, the thing about the second hill is, you go down that first hill and you hit the bottom, and then you go up and you go down over that. There's an overbank turn. Yeah, that's the first thing. So you make that turn, and then you go down and then up the second hill. And I remember the first time I rode it, climbing the second hill and going, okay, there's going to be a trim break here somewhere, because there's no way we could go to the top of this hill at this speed, because we're flying right now, and there's no trim break. The trim break is on the third hill, but the second hill, you go up the second hill, no trim break, serious ejector airtime. And
the thing about that second hill, and I only rode this, full disclosure, I've only ridden this ride twice, but it stuck in my brain.
Right.
The crest of that hill it's so super smooth. It's not one of those hills that give you one of these. It's just airtime starts here.
Right.
airtime finishes here. You know what I mean? It's just
It's very well designed.
Airtime.
It's one of those things like, I mean, you live in you live where Six Flags New England is. So Superman is your coaster. It's in your backyard. And I've ridden Superman. It's a fantastic coaster. But, the thing about Mako that I love is that there's no unpleasant moments. There's no gray outs. There's no blackouts. There's nothing that it's all fun. It's like there's a lot of air. There's a lot of G-forces, but they're all within the area where a person is not going to feel anything unpleasant when they do it.
Yeah.
So it's like it takes you right to that edge, but you don't go over it, which that's one of the things I love about it.
Yep. High speed, super thrilling, constant, like you said, ejector air, down and back coaster.
Yeah,
down and out coaster.
Yeah, down and out and back, out and back. Yeah,
out and back coaster. So many good elements, just so smooth. It is just like a perfect, almost perfect coaster, because it's not number one on my list, but perfect coaster.
Right.
I will say my thing for me, and it's not a big deal in this coaster because I just always like theming.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean,
a bit more theming. You're at SeaWorld. There could be so much. There's so much potential for that. I don't want to. It's a thrilling coaster.
It's not Six Flags level theming. It's a little bit beyond that, but it's really not that much. I mean, you're supposedly under the pier. One good thing, I do like the score. There is a score for Mako. There's some Guy Harvey murals. Guy Harvey is awesome,
which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and you go, like I say, you're under the pier, and then when you get up to the coaster, if you look above you in the station, you'll see the sharks kind of. Yeah, there's shipwreck, and then there's the sharks.
Oh, the sharks coming.
The sharks swimming above you.
Yeah.
But really, other than that, there's not much theming. But it makes up for it in just being.
Makes up for in its
and of course the area the area around it, of course, has got the shark encounter and the sharks underwater grill and the bar right there.
Which is
say
awesome.
Anything about that bar?
With, good.
Love the bar at Sharks Underwater Grill. It's a good area, but the coaster could have a little bit more theming. But the coaster is fantastic. It really is. And we didn't talk about Golden Ticket Awards yet, but the Golden Ticket Awards for Revenge of the Mummy, it's won best indoor coaster so many times in a row that they kind of retired the category. So Revenge of the Mummy has won the Golden Ticket for best indoor coaster for a long time. And Mako started out when it was first built, it was 35 on best steel coaster. Now it's up to 15. So the reputation is growing. As more people ride Mako, more people are appreciating Mako. And I've ridden bigger, like Bollinger and Mabio, bigger coasters. Raging Bull in Illinois, and
I'm jealous.
Raging Bull is great. Yeah, it's a little compact. It's not more of an. It's more of a compact. It's got like this really cool layout. But Nitro at Great Adventure in New Jersey, that's an out and back Bollinger and Mabillard. It's taller than Mako, but not as exciting.
Yeah,
Mako has more airtime. Mako, Apollo's Chariot, probably the closest thing to Mako. Great ride.
It would have made my list if we were doing Virginia rides.
I think I have a Busch Gardens Williamsburg pass for the rest of this year. So there you go. We can meet there.
I thought you were going to say something like you had a duck hat or something.
A goose.
Goose. Sorry. Goose.
Fabio. Poor Fabio.
Yeah. Fabio took a goose to the face.
At least Fabio lived. I don't think the goose did, unfortunately.
No, I think the goose, unfortunately, yeah. But yes, I totally agree. Yeah. It's just a fantastic ride. Yep, I love it.
Yep.
So that's my. I apologize for taking your first with my third, but it's just such a good.
How many times have I taken your number one? Come on.
It's true. That's true.
With my number
it's
4.
Payback.
Yeah, it's payback. That's great. No, I figured that one was going to be on both of our lists. So yeah, and you did ride it first, by the way. Yeah, you did.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I said you
You
absolutely
did, and then I remember you texting me and saying, "Oh my God, I felt like I felt threatened."
Yeah, yeah,
when I'm
yeah.
riding
Oh
this
my God.
ride.
It was the first time I rode it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness. I was like, and I'm a roller coaster rider. Nothing really gets to
Yeah,
me.
right.
I'm
Exactly.
not a big launch coaster guy, like the super launch coasters that are, worse than taking off on the space shuttle. Those kind of,
Right.
I have zero interest in those. But this Mako ride was incredibly thrilling.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the things I actually wrote down on my note that it's got 9 airtime moments during the ride,
It's
and they come
insane.
one after another, boom, boom,
It's
boom, boom, boom,
insane. Boom,
and it
boom,
just,
boom, and they're big airtime moments.
oh yeah,
Most of them are big airtime moments,
and
and
it's like this coaster just wants you out, like
well,
get
I
off
mean, it's 4,700 feet, but that's not insanely long. It's
yeah,
long, but it's not. But the airtime is all packed into that. 9 airtime moments packed into 4,700
yeah,
feet.
just get that,
So
yeah.
yeah. But
Totally.
yeah, you're talking about being scared of it. I mean, a funny story is I go to SeaWorld a lot with my niece, Caitlin, and I'm we're waiting in line for Mako because we'll always ride it like 2 or 3 times in a row, and my wife won't ride it. She waits outside, and so we're going for the second time, and we're talking about heights and whatever, and I'm like, well, I don't like I love roller coasters, but I hate heights, Caitlin, and she goes, well, what do you do? I'm like, I just stare at the seat in front of me while we're going up the lift hill. I won't look around. I don't go look anywhere. And as long as I do that, I'm good. No problem. And Mako's great for that because when Mako gets right down to business, when you get to the top of the lift
Oh
hill,
yeah, it's
you're done.
on.
You go right down. It's straight. There's no
Yeah,
meandering around.
oh,
This is not Shikra where you're going to go around and stop at the
putt around
top.
the corner. Yeah.
It's right down to business and that's it. So we get on the ride and we go and the next time we got off, she's cracking up. She goes, "You really do that?" I said, "Yeah, I do. That's what I do." And then I started giving the advice to other people that were sitting next to me that were like scared. I'm like, just look at the seat in front of you. Don't look around. Don't listen to anybody else talking about how high it is. Just look at the seat in front of you. And when the ride starts, you won't care after that.
Yeah. I didn't have that luxury, though. I'm not afraid of heights. I rode in the front seat, and that could have been part of part of
Right.
my issue. I don't think I would enjoy this ride as much in the back seat. Tell you the truth.
I
Um,
rode in the very back. I did, and it was the forces are pretty intense back there. It's pretty cool,
yeah,
actually.
I don't know. I'd have to give it a shot, but it's that first hill. I don't know
Yeah.
that I'd ever be able to regain my composure after getting pulled over the hill. Because
I
it's a long train, and it's sort
it
of,
is.
by the time the front's going down,
Yeah.
the back's following, and you sort of get pulled right over that hill.
Yeah.
So
There's
yeah,
four per four abreast, and there's
yep.
28 people in a train. So that's what's that, 9 rows? So nine.
Yeah, 3 trains with 7 cars.
Three,
So riders are arranged 4 across, and there's 28 per train.
28 per train. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it gives it a good capacity. It's a
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, man, it's an awesome ride. Don't miss it if you go to
7. So 7. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, if you go to SeaWorld, you can't miss it.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So
So I've stolen your number one with my number 3. So I guess it's your turn for your number 3.
my number 3 is no, my number 3 was a Space Mountain.
Oh, that's
So I'm
right.
down in my number 2 now.
Sorry about that.
You have a number 2? You go now. You go now. Oh,
No,
well, no.
my number 2 is Expedition Everest. You
Okay,
stole it.
so we're done. So we're done with that too. Okay. All right.
So
Well,
your number.
my number 2 is again another ride that replaced a ride that I loved.
Interesting.
Yep. Yep.
Go
So
on.
go on. So when Islands of Adventure first opened, they had some great coasters, Incredible Hulk, and Dueling Dragons,
Oh
which
man.
eventually made moved to became Dragon Challenge, and when Harry Potter took over the
Yeah,
what
for
was
that
it called?
area.
what was it called? Forbidden? No, what the hell was it called?
Yeah, it was something like that. Forbidden something.
Oh no, it was called. God, I can't remember. This is what happens when you drink too many gimlets. I know this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
The ride goes through the
right next to
Forbidden
that
Forest.
Griffin person thing holding the flaming torch.
There was Merlin. There was Merlin's the restaurant with Merlin in it, and anyway, the area where the Wizarding World of Harry Potter is now, and they took down Dragon Challenge and they put up Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure, which is fantastic. That's my number 2.
I have not ridden it. It has not made my list because I legally could not put it on my list.
If you wrote it, it would be on your list. I feel pretty confident in that.
That's what I understand.
It's fantastic, yeah. So Dueling Dragons was great.
One of my all-time favorite coasters.
One of the best. I wasn't too fond of Ice Dragon, but I really love Fire Dragon. It was, as we just spoke about earlier, inverted coasters.
Yeah.
They hold up very well. To the day it got torn down, and I'm sad it got torn down instead of being sold. But I can understand Universal not wanting to really sell this and put it in another park and have people say, well, it's better than what's there now or whatever, or compare it to that. So got torn down. The Fire Dragon was fantastic. And, one of the only inverted coasters that had an airtime moment.
Yep.
After you came down the first hill, you would go up and over.
Corkscrewing
the Ice Dragon would be doing, I think, a 0G roll. And you would go up over the top of it, and that was an airtime moment on an inverted coaster. It was awesome. And you would. It was a great ride. Of course, with all the near miss moments. That was the first one. There was 3 in the ride. There was the second one where you both did loops, which was that was the greatest.
It was awesome. Yeah.
And I think there was one moment at the end where one of them did a corkscrew and the other one, I don't know. I can't remember that one. But it's been a while.
The other was corkscrewing, right?
Yeah, one was corkscrewing. I think Fire was doing the corkscrew. Anyway, but
the whole thing was awesome. I love that ride.
The whole thing was great, and so anyway, they decided to replace it. People were upset. What's going to be better than Dueling Dragons or Dragon Challenge? And they announced Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventures, which of course is based on Hagrid and the Forbidden Forest and the Wizarding World, another Wizarding World ride. And the coaster section, it's the longest coaster in Orlando, over 5,000 feet.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's got I don't know, like 7 launches. I think there's I don't know if they're all considered launches, because a lot of them are like boost. You're moving and then you get boosted, but it never lets up. From the time you leave the station until the time you hit the brakes, it just doesn't let up. And
I've watched the videos.
Yeah, as going through the queue is in the same building as Dueling Dragons queue, so you'll see some familiar areas. It's a little claustrophobic if you don't like that. I don't like that either. And but you're there for a while, but you go past them pretty quick. And then there's not too much in it, but there is a video at the beginning that shows that Arthur Weasley and Hagrid want you, so Arthur Weasley takes Sirius Black's motorcycle and he uses a spell to replicate it and turn it into a coaster train. And you ride the coaster. You've got the motorbike, and then there's a sidecar. Both of them
are just so cool.
They're completely different, depending on where you are. Right. And the queue is, like I said, nothing fantastic. It's got some stuff in it, but it's nothing compared to the other two Harry Potter queues. The queue for Gringotts or the queue for Forbidden Journey. Those are both way better.
Yeah, super immersive. Awesome. Yep.
Yeah. You get to the ride, load up, and you come out of the first station, go around the corner, and immediately like boost. And Hagrid, you're going to meet Hagrid at a hut at the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and he's going to show you a blast-ended screw.
Yeah.
And of course, you get there, you see the screw, and everything goes wrong, and you get launched out into the Forbidden Forest. You go past Fluffy, the three-headed dog. You go past some other creatures out there, some pixies, Cornish pixies. You go past the Weasleys' Ford Anglia, the car that Harry and Ron rode in the second Harry Potter movie, and I mean, it's mayhem. You're just going all. It's this ride goes 50 miles an hour. It feels like a lot faster. Yeah. I mean, and you're going through the Forbidden Forest. You get to a point where you go up a huge vertical spike, and Hagrid says, "Oh, looks like you lost power." And you go backwards.
Well done.
You go backwards, and you end up in an indoor section, an indoor scene, and you get caught in Devil's Snare. And Hagrid does a spell to release you from the Devil's Snare, and there's a drop track, 17 feet straight down. If you don't know it's there, it's like it happens like suddenly. Like it's certainly not as bad as you think it. Some people might think it is. This one is not controlled. It is just like a straight drop track. It's a gravity drop. So and from there, Hagrid says there's Mr. Weasley put a button on your bike for dragon fire, and he tells you to push the button because you have to escape. There's other blast-ended Scroots there. You have to escape them. So you push the dragon fire button. You don't have to, really. Nobody has to. But the launch out of that drop track will take your breath away. It's awesome. It really is. And from there you go through the rest of the ride. Excuse me?
I'll have to decide when I go because I do not like launch tracks. So I will have to decide.
You would like I think you would like this launch is not like. It's a surprise. If you don't know it's there for sure.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
So anyway, you go through the rest of the ride. You see a unicorn and a baby unicorn, and then the ride is over. And I remember the first time we rode it, my wife goes, when she stopped, she's like, "Oh my God, how fast is that ride?" I said 50 miles an hour. It feels faster for sure than 50 miles. Yeah. It feels a lot faster than 50 miles an hour, but it is just 100% fun. I mean, Universal hit it out of the park with this one. It's kind of like an Intamin. It's a bike coaster, so it's not an Intamin Blitz. But when they were building it, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Cheetah Hunt at Busch Gardens. Cheetah Hunt is a lot less intense, smoother. This has a lot more twists and turns around the Forbidden Forest, and it's a little bit more intense. Definitely a lot of fun.
I'm gonna watch the video again.
And Cheetah Hunt is one of my favorites. I love Cheetah Hunt.
Cheetah Hunt is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Velocicoaster or whatever, the Jurassic coaster is going to be. It's going to have some elements like Cheetah Hunt, but it's going to be faster and have some. Cheetah Hunt, I think, has one inversion, and that's it. This is going to have a few, and some really cool elements. But Hagrid's Universal hit it out of the park. They really did. And
that's awesome.
10-hour waits when it first opened, and people were getting off. You hit it out of the park when there's 10-hour waits and people are getting off saying
it was worth it.
It was worth waiting 10 hours.
So I don't know if you know this. I'm going to ask you because I know you're on the boards and stuff like that. But is it still having, like, I know there was a overheating issue that it kept having.
Yes.
At the launches.
Yes.
But I didn't know if that. I thought I know they were working on solving it. I didn't know if they had solved it.
I think it was a common problem that happens with those Intamin coasters. Intamin coasters are complicated, but do have a lot of problems. And this one especially, because I think Universal was aiming to run, for capacity reasons, to run 10 trains at once. The load platform, the load platform is kind of like Rip Ride Rocket in the fact that it doesn't stop
constantly
moving.
Goes.
Yeah. And Forbidden Journey, where for capacity's sake, it just keeps going, and you kind of got to hop on your bike pretty quick. If you're the bike, you got to move quick because you got to hop through the sidecar and onto your bike.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
The sidecar person's got to get in. But I can't see it being too much of a problem unless you're not
some mobility issue.
Right, you have a mobility issue. But it's I think they solved it, and they pretty much are running at the capacity for the ride now. And I kind of waited to ride it until then because I didn't feel like waiting for 3 hours. Well, I would have waited for 3 hours. My wife is not waiting for 3 hours.
Yeah, 3 hours is a tough sell. I don't know. 3 hours.
Yep.
Right when you said drop track, by the way, I thought for Bolton, one of my favorite roller coasters.
For Bolton, I think, is the only other drop track in America besides.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Yep.
That is awesome. One of my daughter's favorites too. I think we rode that thing 10 times. Just kept getting on. It was fantastic.
Oh, the area was called the Lost Continent.
Lost Continent. That's right. Now I see the sign.
And there still is an area called the Lost Continent. It's got the what do you call it?
Which?
Mythos.
Oh,
restaurant. The restaurant and the Poseidon.
Poseidon's Journey. Show thing.
Poseidon's Fury.
Poseidon's Fury used to be awesome.
Yeah.
Was not awesome anymore. So that was your number 2?
That is my number 2.
Is that all wrapped up? I think that's awesome. I wish I had more to add because I've not ridden the ride, and I was going to ride the ride, but it doesn't look like we're headed down there. So I won't be riding.
It's all wrapped up. There's not much else to say about it.
Yeah. Awesome. So it looks like we're on to number 1s, are we not?
We are. Your number 1. My number 1's done. Mako.
That's right.
Yeah.
So my number 1, I guess I'll go through all the.
Can I guess? Can I guess what it is? Yeah. Can I get the Incredible Hulk?
It is. Yeah. It's awesome. I love that ride. and even recently, like since they refurbed it, I went on. It's a little bit rough still, especially towards the end. But and like you said, we do like smooth coasters. There's no doubt about that. But this is just that. It just grabs a hold of you. It's
the first. The very first, yeah.
So it's definitely not one of those roller coasters where you do a slow trip up the lift track and gently get pushed over the hill. No, that's not the case. So let me go through some of the stats and then we'll review this. But it's B&M again.
Yep.
All B&M coasters seem to be my favorite. But it's a not to steal the secret, but it's a tire propelled launch.
It is.
It certainly
is. Very low tech.
Yeah, very low tech.
The launch was designed by Universal Creative, the coaster by B&M.
It takes I'm totally exaggerating, but it takes enough electricity to run like 15 states.
It would black out blackouts Orlando every time that it launches.
Yeah, it has like its own generators and stuff.
Orlando has a brownout every time it goes up. It does. It has its own generator.
Yeah, it has its own generators. Yeah. Yep. It's not super high, 110 feet. The biggest drop, 104 feet, 105 feet almost.
Yep.
3,700 feet of track. Only goes about 67 miles an hour, which is kind of quick, but
it's pretty quick.
Yeah, 40, I think it goes like 45, 48, 46, somewhere in the 40s after its initial launch. Mm-hmm. It's not until the first hill that it hits the 67 miles an hour. It has 7 inversions, The first couple being awesome. Towards the end when they just kind of squish them in.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
my favorite part of the ride,
after the brake run, it's kind of meanders around a little bit. People would criticize that part, but the beginning is like from the launch to the 0G roll to the Cobra roll to the massive, loop.
I don't mind that meandering around because it gets to like you get your composure. 4 solid G's, probably.
Definitely, it gets all maybe more than that. Yeah.
8 cars, 32 riders per train.
Right.
It's got a big capacity. Right now, there doesn't seem like I've been a bunch of times, and there's lines aren't really that big for this ride anymore. Used to be.
Problem. Used to be.
Yeah. I could give you the acting chops here if you want for the first for the lift track.
I think this time it's going to work.
Everything.
Warning, fluid level dropping.
Yeah. No. That was the original, the gamma ray accelerator. So I have to say, I'll give you my little personal story where this roller coaster was new. So it must have been before the internet where you could really watch and research rides before you went on them. So my wife and I got to the park early, gates open, got through the gates, took a hard left, got on the first ride of the day, didn't get a chance to really look at the track, and was totally surprised by this launch.
Oh yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. It's a
shocker. Immediately does a roll.
Yeah.
At 40
0G roll at the very highest point of the ride.
Yep. Absolutely. First time I rode it, terrifying. Subsequent parts, subsequent times, it is my favorite part of the ride. It's just awesome.
Yeah. It is. It really is, because it kind of dives straight down after that.
Yep.
And it's really. The first time I rode it, I remember going to City Walk before Islands of Adventure opened, and just like sitting out there and looking in there, and they had the music playing and everything at the gates, and saying, "Oh my God, there is a brand new theme park right there. I mean, this is like the best." And then
awesome.
like a month later, I ended up going there, and we did Dueling Dragons, and then before we were just about to leave, I remember saying to my friend, "Well, we didn't do the Hulk yet. We got to go do the Hulk. I mean, come on." It was dark. Okay, it's dark. First time.
So I like the dark. Yeah.
So we waited in line. I think the line was probably about 45 minutes or so. We waited, and I remember getting off at the end and saying, "What the heck just happened to me? I just don't know what the heck just happened to me." I mean, it was just like insane.
Yeah. I will say that we went on. We met friends. But actually, friends from where we live. We went on with them together, and I convinced this guy's wife to go on with us. She likes roller coasters. She saw this one was a little bit extreme. She has never been on a roller coaster since then.
I believe it.
Roller coasters. Yeah. She was absolutely done with roller coasters. She said it was just too intense. And what's funny is, I've been on a lot of roller coasters, so it didn't really hit me like that. And I guess I probably should have thought of that. But yeah, it was so intense for her that she hasn't been on a roller coaster since.
Yeah.
Which I like I said, I feel a little bit bad, but
well, yeah, it's definitely more intense. I mean, like we're talking about doing like Kraken like 23 times, and Kraken was like that. But the Hulk, I after about like 6 or 7 times, I would like have to go sit down somewhere in order to, because I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And I hadn't ridden it in a little bit. And then recently, one of our trips that we came down to Universal, I rode it again, and since they redid the whole track, 2016, I think.
Yeah.
2016. I think I rode it.
They completely tore down the track and built it again, like the same exact way.
And they added theming to the launch tunnel, which made it way cooler.
Better.
Before it was basically a couple video screens with a guy yelling
Right. Which
Yeah,
I love.
and
I mean,
now
look,
it's
I loved it. That's what I'm saying.
absolutely I loved it, but now it's so much with all
Because I
the
wrote it so many times that way.
yeah, now with all the electricity going down the walls and stuff,
Yep.
and it's just
Yep.
really cool. Definitely, you get the story of the ride that they're actually turning you into the Hulk, and you're
Right.
going throughout the whatever town, city, whatever, jumping around and doing the typical Hulk things.
Right.
So you get the idea of the story of the ride that actually you are the Hulk at this point, like blasting around um, the city.
Yep. No.
um, for Fallout Boy fans, Patrick Stump of Fallout Boy did the original score for the ride, by the way, that you hear throughout the ride now. There's your little, the more you know.
There you go.
Fallout Boy. I just love it. It's just one of those roller coasters. It's that like very definition of extreme roller coaster. And before that, I always saw it as like a smooth coaster. Like I said, it got a little bit rough.
It did.
And it's
It does. And believe it or not, which it's kind of weird that even after completely rebuilding him, it's still a little bit rough.
Mhm.
It didn't get like ultra smooth, but it is still a great coaster. I mean, like I said, if we did this list 10 or 15 years ago, it probably would have been number one on my list too. But there wouldn't be any Mako, and
Yeah, right,
but
exactly. Yep.
I've come to appreciate the themed coasters a lot, and I think everybody else has come to. We've kind of like maybe pivoted away from seven loops and seven
Yeah.
inversions, but
Yeah.
I still love the Hulk. Yeah, it's still a great ride.
It's definitely one of my like back in the day coasters. It was just awesome. Like
Yeah.
there was nothing like it. Obviously, I don't think there's
No,
anything like it still with a lift
there's
track.
there
And,
is nothing like. Well,
zero G
first of
roll
all,
right off the top.
sit down. Bollinger and Mabillard regular sit down coasters like that are few and far between. There's Kumba. I think there's like Dragon Con in Port Aventura in Spain. I don't know if it's still called Port Aventura, whatever, but which actually has 8 inversions. But there's not too many of those.
Mm.
They mostly do inverted or the different types of now the flying coasters, which I noticed Manta is not on either one of our lists.
No, it's
Yeah,
a good ride, but it didn't make the list.
visually stunning, but not my cup of tea.
Oh, it is
And
that first
yeah,
roll, that first hill or loop, whatever. Oh man,
yeah,
it is just disconcerting.
it
It
is.
just yeah.
But it's kind of a one of a kind. And then I don't know if there's any more B&M launch coasters. I don't. At the time, for a long time, Hulk was the only one. I
Yeah, it
don't
was the
know
only one. Yeah.
if there's been any built since then, but for the longest time, Hulk was the only one. And B&M, like I said, B&M didn't design the launch. Universal Creative did
Yeah.
the low tech tire launch, and everybody suspected when they rebuilt it that they were gonna do that over, and it ended up being a low tech tire launch again.
Yeah, it's still low tech tire. Well, I would guess that like the investment to put all that in there.
Oh yeah,
Like,
of course.
oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
yeah,
like rip that out. Like, whoosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, love the ride. Super fantastic. Cured one of my friends of roller coasters.
Never
Good.
ride a roller coaster again.
Yeah. But I will say at least once you have to go on this ride because it is definitely one of those one of a kinds that
Yep.
you just have to ride at least once. Might beat you up a little bit at the end. Those final corkscrews and stuff are
Yeah.
tight,
After,
but
well, they are. I remember always if you're not ready for it, the drop right after the brake run was a real. It would
because
yank
that
you.
brake run doesn't really slow you down all that much.
Right. Yeah. And if you were in the back seat and you were in the drop after the brake run, it would really kind of jerk you. I remember the last time riding my niece. I rode with my niece Caitlin, and she had earrings on, and her earlobes were bloody at the end. So
Yeah, that's not good.
no, not good.
No, but
So
there you go. That's my
that's
number
it.
one.
A
Your
great
number
ride.
one was Mako. My
Yep.
number one's Hulk. I'd still ride it again. It might
Yep.
be a little bit more extreme for my advanced age.
Yep. Well, the next time we'll have to do it again.
Yeah, just once, you know.
Yep.
There's
Well,
a way just to relax and have a beer afterwards. So.
or before and afterwards.
Before and then after.
Before and afterwards, right? The bar there at Confisco's. I can't remember what that bar is called.
You walk in that one.
Walk in, go right to the right there.
Yeah.
Backwater bar. That's it. Backwater bar. It's amazing. I can't remember the names of entire lands right now, but I can remember the name of a bar. How's that happen?
Oh, geez, I wonder.
I don't know. Anyway, but it's definitely would do that. And I did notice a trend. We have a lot of Bollinger and Mabillard on our list. So
definitely.
Yep. But the Jurassic coaster's coming. That's going to be Intamin, like an Intamin Blitz coaster. Of course, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. That's going to be Vekoma with Walt Disney Imagineering. And what else have we got coming? Oh, SeaWorld's got their
SeaWorld one,
Yep, they got Icebreaker, which is premier rides. We talked about Revenge of the Mummy. And they're talking about their next one's going to be either
the wave.
Right.
Surf and wave.
Something Bollinger and Mabillard. So, something.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to that. And so be good times coming up for roller coasters, but that's our top 5 for now.
Yeah. So I guess that's a close on our podcast.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other leftover discussion for this top 5? I think we pretty much did. I looked at the time. We're up to 2 hours naturally, because that's what we do.
Of course, that's what we do. Even when we match up every time.
Yeah, I know. We still like to get in our 2 cents about what we like. So
right, exactly. But no news and still 2 hours.
Yeah, less news. Of course
less news. Okay,
talk about less news,
but less news and still 2 hours.
Yeah.
But, roller coasters are near and dear to our hearts. So that's it. So what do we have? We each had 2 Disney coasters.
Yep.
You had 2 SeaWorld. I had 1 SeaWorld, but it was number 1. And
Universal for
you had 1 Universal. I had 2 Universal. So but I bet
it's pretty good spread.
Yeah, it's
not even on purpose. Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. And we matched up a couple times, but not every time. So that's good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's a wrap. No other leftover discussion, and I guess we might as well go to a close.
Well, first of all, we want to give a shout out to all the employees at Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, all the employees, servers, cast members, everyone. Basically,
they make your vacation.
Yeah,
they do their job.
They make your vacation, and they haven't had a fun summer or a fun 2020 so far. I could tell you all of it, because of COVID. So when these people come back, be extra nice to them.
Yeah.
Put a little extra tip for these.
There you
people.
go. Yeah.
So
a little extra, they could definitely use it, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. Right now. So, and of course, as every podcast we say in the great Warren Zevon's words, and remember everyone to enjoy every sandwich.
That's it. That's a wrap. See you later. See you later, Joe. Till next time.
Take care, Gary. Take it easy.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right. Bye.
So you're saying that you think maybe from your perspective now, do you know something about life and death that maybe I don't know now?
Not unless I know how much you're supposed to enjoy every sandwich. Mm-hmm. You know.